baby.
Yeah.
Miracle, miracle, serves. Miracle, miracle, serves. Miracle, miracle, serves. Miracle, miracle, serves.
We keep having all these problems. How we gonna solve them? Every day it's the same thing. All these unsolved issues, I guess it's official. Here we go again, the same old thing. And I'm tired of the arguing and lying. So goodbye, all the hurt and crying. Things will change and you, so how can I expect something new? It's the same old thing.
Good morning, everybody. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. It is July the 1st, 2025, and today the topic is healing tongue. Happy Wednesday. No, wait, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody, and happy new month, man. Yes, happy new month. It is now officially July. And yeah, man, I hope all is well. I had a good day yesterday. Mine was just fine overall. I mean, I was with y'all half the day yesterday, right? Because I did the juice and then did Truth and Tinfoil, which as you guys can see, I'm still in the Truth and Tinfoil set. Look, Studio T. Oh, it's so funny. Anytime I change the backdrop, I'm in a new studio. But yeah, man. It was interesting. Like last night, ended quite interesting because your girl was on the phone with Allie for about 4 hours. So the fact that I'm up this morning is a blessing, right? But yeah, that it's a lot. It's a lot of things going on and whatnot. We had, I feel like, a good conversation. I feel like she got to know me a little bit better. And stuff like that. So shout out to Allie, man. Shout out to her for taking the time to chit chat with your girl. Shout out to Jamie, Miss Jamie, tuning in live right now. Good morning. Good morning. I'm good. How are you? Miss Jamie wants to know, am I interviewing Allie tonight? So the interview that we did, it was pre-recorded. So it was pre-recorded on Saturday, and yes, it's coming out tonight at 7. So yeah. Thank you to those that are tuning in and everything like that. But so I'm here to give this juice, man. I guess we'll talk more about like after show stuff later or whatever. You know, I'm sure y'all probably want to know what me and Allie was talking about. I mean, I don't know how much I'm gonna tell y'all, you know what I'm saying? Some of that ain't for you to know right now. But just know, again, it was a long conversation. No problem, Miss Jamie. Thank you for asking. All right, well, let's get into this conversation about healing tongue, friends. Where did it come from today? Well, I woke up thinking about, the things that me and Ali was talking about, as well as just things in general. I had a dream, but I don't remember what it was about at the moment. And like, as soon as I got up, I started to Ali had texted me, so I, ended up texting her back, and and then I started like doing some stuff online, and so I just forgot to go ahead and go deeper about my dream. So I don't really remember it enough. When I did finally just kind of settle down, I did listen to the prayer meditation and do all that as well, which was good. And I think that was part of the inspiration for Healing Tongue. I think it might have said something about, but it was talking about, I guess, words and, how we use them and stuff like that. And so yeah, I think the phrase healing tongue stood out to me as I was listening to that. And so as I was just reflecting on everything, thinking about the verses that I woke up to, which I think was around, I can't remember the official time. I don't have anything to do with juice, so I guess, yeah. But anywho, so I was reflecting on all of those things, and ultimately, like I said, healing tongue just kind of stood out to me. And so I kind of went deeper about that. There's only a few verses that I felt led to even write down about it, but I'm going to share this juice, and hopefully it will be encouraging and inspiring to you. So no definitions today. I don't think I have to tell y'all what a tongue is, right? I mean, I didn't even think to look that up, but I mean, that physical part of our bodies that help us to talk and to eat and all the things. Miss Jamie is letting us know that the tongue can cut deep. We can hurt or heal with the tongue. Exactly. So, it seems like y'all know what that is already. So I didn't, find a definition. So we're going to go straight to the Bible verses, y'all. So this is what I felt led to write down. today. Proverbs 15:14. It says, "A gentle tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness in it breaks the spirit." Like Miss Jamie just said, friends, again, the tongue can hurt or heal, so it depends on how you use it, right? What's going to happen. People talk a lot about what is it, manifestation and stuff like that, or speaking things into existence and things of that nature. And I think there's something to it for sure. I focus more so on the biblical aspect, but I definitely think there's something to, again, there's power in our words. And so I try my best to be careful of what I'm speaking, right? Like even when I'm speaking over myself in a joking manner or whatever, I know that people, for example, in my hometown, they would go around and be like, "I'm going back to the poorhouse" and stuff like that. I think even that has some type of power. I don't say that over me and my house. I'd be like, "We going back to the blessed house." You know what I'm saying? Like, and maybe that has some impact, maybe it don't. But I just feel like, again, we got to be more considerate of the things that we say, because there is power in our words and tongue. I'm reminded of this in this moment that there's this verse, and I didn't write it down. But there's this verse that talks about, I mean, obviously the power of the tongue, and blessings and curses and things like that. But basically the verse that talks about us being accountable for every word that we speak. I don't know how you guys feel about that when you hear that. That might be Pope. That might be a little bit scary. That, wait a minute, I've got to be accountable to every word that I speak. But I don't think we acknowledge that or really understand that, because again, a lot of us is out here speaking all kinds of stuff, and like even, okay, see, the Lord just be working all these things out. So there's this young lady on Instagram. Apparently I was following her and I saw her post, but I was like, I might need to unfollow you, because it seems like I don't want to be seeing your type of post. But because I saw it, I felt like I needed to address it. So long story short, she was kind of going off a little bit of, I guess, politically, and I guess maybe in a ironic or quote unquote, maybe this was supposed to be funny way, trying to say like, "Oh, Jesus, only love Republicans," for example. That's not exactly what she said, but she kind of was saying something along those lines. And he don't love, so he hates everybody else or whatever. And I'm like, ma'am, like, I just wanted to put just some truth in love. So in her comment or under the post, because I thought it was starting to get views and whatnot, I'm like, for the record, like, Jesus loves everybody. Like, Jesus don't hate nobody, according to what I'm understanding when it comes to the Bible. And so, and I was like, I get your sarcasm or whatever, but, I just think that there's something a little bit off about you posting that, and now people are viewing that, and all they see is your words, not whatever context, not if you was, I don't know if you're a believer trying to say that this is my way of showing how people think or something. So I made a decent, I feel like a decent response, right? And tried to just point people to Christ and be like, that's not the Jesus of the Bible, the one that she's talking about. She's saying that Jesus hates, and that's not part of his nature, from my understanding, right? And now there are things that, not in regards to humanity, like I don't think he hates us, you know what I'm saying? He might hate some stuff we do and stuff like that, but like hating us is, like Miss Jamie here saying, it's blasphemous, you know what I'm saying? But that's what she had on her post, all on IG, and you done shared it with the world. And so I just was like, let me put some truth in love, so hopefully if somebody sees this, that they can know that, what, maybe this isn't accurate what she's saying, right? So apparently she somebody commented under it and was like, "Oh, this is supposed to be," I don't know if they were trying to say it's supposed to be satire or something. And I just was like, hey, at the end of the day, it's hard to see whether something is satire when it's written out. You know what I'm saying? And so the words are saying that Jesus hate people. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just trying to let people, or remind people that that's not Jesus' character according to the Bible. And then they were talking about, well, because people did this or did that. And I'm like, well, those people that did this or did that, then they're probably not true believers or followers of Christ, because you're supposed to be doing and saying what he's doing, say. So, just putting it out there, not trying to go back and forth and debate with y'all, but I'm just trying to, just in case some people come and see this, hopefully it'll help some people that may be on the verge of stumbling because of this post, right? And then she came back and said something, like Christians try to be blah 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 blah. And I just was like, hey, again, I'm not going back and forth with you about it. You put your post up. At the end of the day, I tried to share some truth and love, so then hopefully other people can, it can help someone else. But when it comes to you, ma'am, like, you posted it. At the end of the day, you got to stand on that. And so I don't know how you gonna account for that if whenever you're face to face with Christ and he be like, so I hate people. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I don't know how that's gonna work for you. But I'm just trying to do my part, because again, I saw it, so I felt like the blood would be on my hand for me to scroll past it and don't say something. You know what I mean? So, especially when nobody else had said anything to that point. So I share all that to say, friends, that like, we got to be careful with our words. Like, we got to be careful with what we are putting out there, because at the end of the day, like, again, Miss Jamie said earlier, words can hurt, words can heal, the power in the tongue. The Bible has a lot to say about this one little area of our body, you know what I mean? And even though I didn't feel led to write down any of those things, so I guess that's something you guys can go deeper about and like really look into the word and see what all it has to say about the tongue. But again, we're focused more so on healing tongue today. Let me check out what Miss Jamie has been saying. So she says, like Ali said, I'm from the south side of heaven. God is still teaching me. I have a mouth sometimes that is not always used for good. Well, hey, at least you are holding yourself accountable. You know what I mean? Miss Jamie also says, when people ask me, what do you believe, I say, I'm a Bible believer. I stand firm. Let's go. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I think, again, your fruit will show like what you truly believe at the end of the day. Like, if you are a Bible believer, you'll be trying your best to live biblically. And I'm not saying, because then they still going ham on me on that post about necromancy and all that stuff in the community that I was telling you guys about yesterday. And like I said, I'm not going back and forth with them about Bible. At the end of the day, like, I share what I said, y'all share what y'all said, and they came back and tried to say something else, but I'm like, because then they're trying to be like, oh, I guess trying to tell me I'm wrong about this or that. And I'm just like, hey man, at the end of the day, like, we all got to stand up for ourselves. And so you believe what you believe, I'm reading the Bible, and I'm believing what I believe. So, it's just one of those things. But again, I say all that to say that there's power in our tongues. We need to be more careful in making sure that we're saying healing words, right, versus words that hurt and tear things down. Matter of fact, here's another verse that I feel led to share with you guys this morning. It's Proverbs 12:18. It says, there is one whose rash words are like sword thrusts, but the tongue of the wise brings healing. So yeah, friends, at the end of the day, even sometimes, I know I was telling Ali this yesterday, I just was like, girl, listen, sometimes when people come on here talking in the comments and stuff, I'll be like, my first thought be like, be ready to go off sometimes, but then I'm like, I usually, before I, respond to a comment or something like that, I usually try to go and make sure that I'm saying it in a Christ-like way, you know what I'm saying? Or I'm giving the truth in love, and I'm not just coming rah, you know what I mean? Like, even when I was live yesterday doing Truth and Tinfoil, I think maybe some of my little responses to those individuals that was coming and trying to, I guess, troll, I just was like, kind of, a little bit, but I don't think I was too brazen with them, or like, clearly not cursing nobody out or stuff like that, but just kind of being like a little bit snippy, you know what I mean? But like I said, I really do try to be intentional about, again, truth and love, giving grace, you know what I'm saying? And making sure I'm responding in a way that I feel like Christ would respond, right? So, that can be difficult, but the Holy Spirit will help us. We just got to humble ourselves, right? We got to lay down our first thoughts sometimes and say, Lord, like, how do you want me to say this? And then go forward, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes a good breath, right? A good pause before you say something or type something or whatever will go a long way when it comes, again, to this conversation about healing tongues. So speaking of that, I wrote down some ideas here, because I believe that we are all called to speak in a way that heals and things like that. And so this is what we've been called to do. So here are some examples of the type of healing tongue that we should be having, right? So we have been called to speak in a way that heals misunderstandings, friends. Okay. Lord knows, listen, over the past month or so, I've been having some misunderstandings and things going on around me. I did write about some things back when I was doing the juice and writing it out. I wrote about some of the issues without going into too many details, but I know I was sharing some of this stuff again with Ali last night, and I just was like, I see that the Lord is working on me to be able to have tough conversations with people and like face certain things head on and stuff like that. Again, in love, in honor, in truth, all that type of stuff. But not like brushing things under the rug and pretending things aren't there. Like facing it head on and saying, hey, let's have a conversation about this. And so being that way can truly heal a situation. Like some of the situations have been tough and could have been like, I could have just made some brash, brazen decision and, and who knows where I would be, right? If I had of like done any of that. But instead, like I said, I try my best to humble myself to the Lord and say, okay, Lord, how do you want me to handle this? Let me pray before I have this conversation. And so I felt really good about being able to, again, have the conversation, have the truth in love and confront things head on versus, again, sweeping it under the rug and stuff like that. And so, again, we don't have to feel like, I don't believe that the word is asking us to be doormats and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, sure, okay, it tells us to turn the other cheek and stuff like that. But I know people talk about this all the time, but, Christ, he flipped tables as well and things like that. And so I say all that to say, like, he's not calling us to like be silent, when it's time to speak, now there's times, again, he was silent, when it was time for him to be silent. And then there was times he spoke and was very bold about whatever he needed to say and called people snakes and vipers and things like that. So, the Lord, wherever the Lord is calling you to do and stuff, you just got to use your discernment about how he wants you to handle it. But he always wants us to handle it in a healing way versus a combative type of way, right? So hopefully that encourages us. But let me give you guys some more examples of how we need to be handling things. It will help us to restore clarity. So again, even in those tough conversations that I had, it gave clarity to calmly come to the table and say, hey, help me get an understanding, you know what I'm saying? And things like that. So I guess I'm a living witness that putting these things in practice will do these things. Matter of fact, here's another thing that it will help us do. It will help us to release peace, not pressure. So again, it's hard for someone to, I guess, be mad and super angry if you stay calm, collected, and allow the Lord to speak through you. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the truth can't really be combated. Like, I know people can get mad and stuff like that, but again, if you resist the devil gonna do what? Flee. So at the end of the day, like, we can stay calm, we can stay peaceful, we can say, again, truth and love and stuff like that, and not be mad at people, and people can do what they do. And you may not always get a good response as well. I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh, every time you do it, it's going to be peaceful. But it can be peaceful on your end, right, and in your heart, and they got to deal with whatever they deal with on their end and in their heart. So, just saying. I think another thing. Let me see. It covers in love, but doesn't compromise truth. So again, friends, it's not calling us to be silent when it's time to speak. It's not calling us to again pretend like things are okay and stuff like that. No, it's about, again, truth and love and being honest and again in a healing way. So I know this all can be a challenge, right? All of this can be a huge challenge and a thing like, Lord, how can I do this when I'm facing adversity or when they did me wrong or whatever it is, right? But again, like I said, all the time, I guess I try to remember and try to humble myself to say, you know what, Miracle, you sin and fall short. Like, you're not perfect at the end of the day. And guess what? The Lord gave you grace and mercy and patience and stuff when it came to you in your life, right? So you got to extend that to other people. And honestly, the word really do map out how we're supposed to handle situations, when there's conflict, it tells us to go to that person, you know what I mean, first, and then if they don't receive you, then bring a witness, you know what I'm saying? If that don't happen, then get the church involved, you know what I'm saying? If that still don't help, I think at some point you do it, what was like 3 or 4 times, y'all can go and look and see like those verses that map that all out. But after maybe 3 or 4 times of trying to communicate and do it decent and in order, then you can wipe, dust your feet and stuff like that off that person and like, treat them as a, I guess, an unbeliever or something. However they put it in the Bible, I don't want to like misquote, but I think y'all can look up what I'm talking about, that whole section, and that convicts me sometimes, y'all, because I'm like, sometimes again when I'm handling situations or when I'm trying to decide whether I should or how to handle situations, I'm like, okay, Lord, well, your words say to go to the person first, and sometimes that's like one of the hardest things, because sometimes you don't want to talk to people, you know what I mean? But then I'm like, you know what, if I'm going to say I'm a believer and stuff like that, I got to try to handle this biblically. So like in those situations that I had recently, that I went to the person individually and handle, went that way first. I think we came to an understanding, and it was handled peacefully, and there was no issue, and I think we're in a good place now and stuff like that. And so from there, but if it was going to continue, then I guess I have to keep going the route that the Bible tells us to go, right? But some of us, we're so quick to either, I guess we want our own vengeance. We forget that the Bible tells us that vengeance is mine, say the Lord, right? We want to do it ourselves and stuff. So, and then we lash out and, those type of situations don't ever really end well for people that do that, though. Like if you really pay attention and notice. So it's one of those things to think about. But I want to leave you guys with some more things, friends, and that is what a healing tongue looks like. All right, friends, so I'm going to leave you guys with this little list of what a healing tongue looks like. If you want to write it down, because I don't think I typed it out today. So this is what I came up with for this. All right, so it corrects with compassion. All right, you can correct somebody, and stuff like that, but have compassion as you do so. All right, so that's what a healing tongue would look like. It affirms without enabling. Ooh, now that's a good one, especially Lord knows I've been there. I'm like, hey, I love you, right? I support you and stuff like that, but I cannot enable you in bad behavior. So that's what a healing tongue will do, friends. What else? It can set boundaries without bitterness. Listen, again, your girl has been setting boundaries here and there, left and right. But I'm not bitter about it. And I hope that the people that I'm setting them with aren't bitter about it either. Like, we all should understand that there's a certain, point where, I guess we're supposed to allow things to play out or whatever the case may be. And so, again, if you're calling me to, lay down my values and what things of that nature, then I got to set up a boundary here. You know what I'm saying? Now, does that change how I love you? We was talking about this the other day. But I was like, that doesn't change how I love people and stuff like that. And I don't know, you got free will to do whatever you want to do. But look, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And if you love me, right? And if you, understand you want that grace and mercy for you, then please give me that grace and mercy too. You know what I mean? And if we can't do that, then I guess the boundary is that we can't be in relationship, and that's okay. That's okay. And look, it took wisdom, maturity, and time for me to get to this place where I'm totally fine with, like I said, when people get pruned out of my life at this point, I'm like, okay, Lord, it is what it is, as they say, Let me see. Obviously, speaking the truth in love. Again, people like to just say the truth, right? But then they don't want to have no love with it. And so that's part of the problem. You can't be out here just, nitpicking and, spouting, quote unquote, the truth and being like, I guess, trying to force it down people's throats. Because guess what? The Lord don't do that to us. He's given us a choice, right? And a lot of us, he's given time for us to make a decision and stuff like that. And so, truth and love. I mean, do I have to explain that more? I don't know. Y'all can let me know. But, and then last but not least, basically just kind of wrapping up with the truth and love, even when it's uncomfortable. And Lord knows, like I said, it's uncomfortable to have tough conversations sometimes, right? And so, especially if there's tension and all this type of stuff. But, as somebody that has been trying to walk this out, and like I said, has some situations happening recently where I had to exercise these things, I would say again that I'm still at peace. Everything is still at peace, and I feel like there was some type of healing in those situations by doing it God's way. And I guess that's the juice, y'all. That is ultimately the juice this morning. Now, the Bible verse of today is 1 John 4:9. It says, "In this was manifested the love of God towards us, because that God sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him. Friends, I hope you guys enjoyed this juice this morning. Thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. I pray you guys can go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow, if the Lord's will. Bye-bye.